Made love to the evil, now I'm in trouble. And I so tired, you took mine, leaving nothing behind. Blinded by all the lies. If I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't play your games. If I knew then what I know now, I wish I could erase you, 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 you. Smile of an angel, hand me a hello. Didn't even know that you were evil till you showed yourself how you lost yourself. Yeah. If I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't play your games. If I knew then what I know now, I wish I could erase you, 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 you. Fell for the evil, eyes dark as hell. Fell for the evil, heart as cold as ice. Fell for the evil, now I'm in trouble, yeah, yeah. Fell for the evil, you put me in a spell. Fell for the evil, I see through all your lies. Fell for the evil, someone sent for help, help. Love the love so pure, wanted to feel secure, supposed to be more cure, yeah, yeah. Never assured my heart, trusted you from the start. Guess that was my fault, yeah, yeah. If I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't play your games. If I knew then what I know now, I wish I could erase you, 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 you.
How's everybody feeling on this good Sunday? I'm excited about it. It's the Trauma Series, episode 9, and we're doing part 2, a victim to abuser. Yo, y'all already know how we do when we do the Trauma Series. We got psychoeducational therapist Natalie Collier in the building. Definitely excited about you being here. So how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Little woe out, like I said, went to the beach, but overall, it's been a good day.
Okay, and that's real right there. So we talking about abuse. We just played a video right there where you see that happens a lot. A lot of times people they're being abused, then you get
I like the
winded
video,
down.
and I like the video. She did a good job. I enjoyed that very much. So.
Okay, dope. Salute to V Sky, yo, Veronica
Yeah.
Sky from Atlanta, yo. So salute to her, the Evils right there. So
Yes.
yo, I'm excited about it because last time we talked about a lot of good things. There's a cycle. I noticed a lot of this stuff is repetitive. It's like a lot of times there's a cycle. So let's jump into that.
Okay. So I feel like my chair's a little off. So let me get myself scooted. Okay. So last week we kind of just talked about the overview of abuse, and
Right.
we have to understand we've been talking about trauma most of the series, and we've kind of touched a lot of different topics on that. But when we talk about abusers, nobody is normally born that way. That it is a storm brewing of different traumas that can kind of change, I guess, how we want to say we're hardwired.
Right.
Your brain is kind of hardwired, and it can leave those scars, and it transfers the information in an unhealthy manner. So it teaches us not to be able to have and build those healthy relationships that we should have. So the victim never really gets the help that it needs to overcome the trauma, to heal from the trauma. Instead, it leaves those permanent mental scars, and now we carry that moving forward into relationships.
Right.
And a lot of times people don't see some of the signs of abuse and kind of the storm brewing that's going to lead into that, because abusers are very manipulative,
Right.
and they know how to kind of, bridge that victim, their victim off, to move into that cycle. But they themselves have also been on the receiving end of the abuse. So I think that there's an opportunity to empathize with that. But I think that when we really understand um, how they're hardwired and how that happens, I think we would see less people try to say, "Oh, well, I can fix them." And we see that a lot, with in relationships. When someone's being abused, we want to stay. We want to kind of, oh, it'll get better over time. Oh,
Right.
if I just love them a little bit more, if I just compromise a little bit more, if I just do these things, then that won't happen. And then the victim starts to feel like it's their fault. So really the abuser is sharing their pain with the victim. But it also gives them a sense of control, because
Right.
without those certain tactics, they feel like they don't have any control.
They don't have any. And that's the thing. I seen something interesting this week. Speaking on that right there, where it's like girls, they get to dating, right? Sometimes the
Yes.
guy, he begins to talk about past relationships and stuff like that, but he never
Uh-huh.
tells the other side. So
No.
always he's the victim. My ex was this, my ex was that, and then
Yes.
she's thinking he's having a heart-to-heart moment. But what I
Right.
learned from the study was sometimes manipulators and abusers, they'll bait the person. So it's
Oh yeah.
like they're setting the stage. So it's like they come in like I'm the victim. So now she's
Hmm.
thinking, oh, he opened up to me, da da da. So now that becomes his justification for the wrong
Right.
treatment, for the abuse. What he said, well, I'm going through something, or my ex did me dirty. So now
Hmm.
that makes it okay. And a lot of times, and the whole premise of this, the study that I was reading was to say you have to know the difference between somebody opening up from a place of
Right.
wanting to change
Right.
and someone trying to set the bait of this is the standard now. So
Right.
now when the abuse starts to come and you start to say something about it, now I can come back and say, well, I told you my ex did me dirty. I told you I had insecurities from this. So let me ask you, what's your take on that?
That's actually a really good question, and I like the study because it is a very true study. Um, but I think we're actually going to talk about that in our relationship series, because I think a lot of times when that happens when we're dating is we take what that person says, but we never choose to want to dig deeper. So I like to tell people in that kind of scenario, when they say, "Oh, well, this happened to me and they did this," and now you're playing victim, I like to go back and say, "Well, what do you think that you contributed that may have caused some of that behavior?"
Right.
Because now you're getting to the heart of something. And I think a lot of times maybe it's hindsight looking back, but when people want to put the blame on somebody else, and a lot of people do, especially I've noticed that men do that, and women do that. I think it's an equal thing. Oh, well, so and so did such and such, such and such, and
Right.
now I'm just no, 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 because what were the signs that you saw that you chose not to pay attention to, or were you so enthralled in the situation that you weren't even looking at the red flags because you
Right.
weren't doing it right the first time. You weren't doing it in a healthy way to kind of have boundaries as you're going into the dating process, where you're not doing the most too fast,
Right.
and you're not overly emotionally connecting yourself to that person before you really see what it is that you want to see. But the real thing is that I tell people is that they need to ask people, well, what are some things that you think that, looking back in hindsight, that you could have contributed to that relationship being unsuccessful. I
Right.
think a lot of times we give people the pass. We do. We give people the pass to say, "Oh, well, it was all their fault." Oh, so you just had no play in this.
Right.
You just was there, and they just was spiraling, and you just what? Because it takes two.
Takes two.
And a lot of times we enable unhealthy behavior until we get to a point where we have resentment but the resentment could have been avoided. You know, it's like this. It's like, and I use this as an example. It's like the person that says, okay, I gave up such and such to be with you, to make this work.
Right.
But now you're constantly letting somebody know that you gave up such and such to be with them and to make this work.
Right.
Well, number one, that's a manipulation tactic.
Facts.
And you want to guilt trip somebody.
Right.
Oh, well, she did do, or he did give up all of this for me. So now I need to go ahead and, you know, do better in this area. You're trying to force someone. But the minute that they don't respond the way that you wanted them to respond because you consciously made a decision and a choice,
right.
Now the relationship doesn't, you don't see it the same. So with abusers, there is a lot of manipulation. And I think even on a lighter scale, like you don't have to be a full-fledged, you know, a lot of people don't even really, I think sometimes people don't know that they're manipulating, but I think other times people do. And manipulation to me is one of the biggest forms of abuse.
Right.
Because, and I say that manipulation tactics are learned in childhood.
Exactly.
And parents don't like to hear this. You know what I'm saying? But you know, when I was working with kids, I would tell parents consistency is key. You have to be consistent. If the answer is going to be no about this particular thing 99.9% of the time, then it needs to be no 100% of the time.
Right.
If this is where you stand on this, then the answer is going to be no. But if you're no, and then you're yes, and then you're no, and then you're yes, and then it's like, oh, they'll get in trouble for this, but the next week they'll do the same thing, they don't get in trouble for it. You're showing them, okay, you don't have any consistency.
Right.
So kids learn how to manipulate that, or they learn the tactic, oh, well, you say no, but if I do this, then you'll say yes. And prime example of that, and we'll just go light with it, is your grandma. All of us in the 90s who are 90s kids, we know outside was a thing to do.
Right.
You get grounded. Unlike, I don't know about anybody else, but my mother, I was grounded a lot because I was bad. And so my mother knew that grounding me, it was no outside time, no phone. Right. And, you know, that's rough, you know, for a 12, 13-year-old, you know, even, you know, you trying to get out and trying to see what's going on in the neighborhood. But I would wait until she get on the phone. She'd be in that heavy conversation with a girlfriend. And I would just go in, mom, you know, to the point where she's like, what do you want? And I'm like, can I go outside? Just get out. You know what I'm saying? Sure. But then when she gets off the phone, she realizes, okay, where is my child? Because she's not even supposed to be outside.
Right.
But it's me being able to break that consistency. You said I couldn't do something, but if I wear you down enough, then you're going to give it to me. So now I learned how to manipulate a situation. So it's called learning the tactics of what works. So when we're talking about relationships, you know, and people that are in these abusive relationships, manipulators are great because they learn your inconsistencies.
Right.
They know where you don't have no boundaries. They know. Okay, so if I just try this, or if I just do that, let's see what's going to happen.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like I was watching a clip. I've been watching a lot of, I guess on Oprah, she does all these different shows. So like you got to Put a Ring on It. I've been watching that about long-term couples who've been together, they're still not married, and they have reservations as to why they don't want to get married, but somebody in the relationship wants to get married. You know, and then I've been watching like Ready for Love and different things like that, just really trying to feel out like what's really, you know, see these people's perspectives on things in today's dating relationship world. Right. And I find it interesting because a lot of them manipulate each other in ways that I don't even, I wonder if they're even aware of. Like sex is a manipulation tool. People can use that as a weapon to manipulate. Oh, well, I'll do this if you do that. You know. And manipulation is, you got to be careful with people because they will tell you what you want to hear. That's a fact. And they will pacify you. But the manipulator is only pacifying you to get what it is that they want. Yeah, I'll do this for you. But you're gonna do that for me.
Of
They
course.
you do it for them, but they ain't gonna do it for you.
Right. Right.
You know, and I think a lot of times people don't really look at the fact that how they manipulate. Or, I can do that better than they can. Or why don't you leave them because the grass is greener on the other side? I wouldn't do this and I wouldn't do that. And,
Right.
you're playing on someone's emotion in their thought process. And the sad thing is a lot of times we're not wise enough to really see that for what it is. And I don't think that we give ourselves enough chances to process. Because if we really process things like we're supposed to, we wouldn't be in situations that we wouldn't have, you wouldn't be there.
Right.
But nobody wants to give themselves the honest critique.
Right. Right.
Nobody wants to do that. We can critique everybody else in the world, but we never want to give ourselves the hard judgment.
Right. We
And be
grace
like, what,
ourselves.
I really did do that. And it's like I call it like the drunk moment. It's like for anybody who's ever been drunk, you done been drunk, and you're conscious. It's like a conscious drunk. This ain't the
Right.
blackout kind of drunk. This is like the conscious drunk, where you
Right.
done got drunk and you done said some shit at a party, and it done went left side, and then you wake up the next morning and you be like, damn, I don't even know why I said it. I don't even know,
Right.
what was I thinking? Like, why would I even do that? Like, because you can't take it back.
Can't take it back.
But you gotta live with that. So either you're gonna do one or two things. Either you're gonna act like it didn't happen, slide it under the rug, or blame it on the alcohol, or you're gonna call and be like, you know what, there was no reason for me to even behave that way, regardless of that. And if I can't control myself under the influence, and I don't need to be under the influence, and I really apologize. Taking
Right.
ownership. But we treat that same thing in situations. The only thing with victims of adult abusers, if we're talking about like an adult relationship, a lot
Right.
of times the abuser has broken you down so far, so bad, they brainwashed you so bad that you believe that you are the source for their behavior.
Right. I
Well,
deserve it.
they wouldn't act like this if I didn't do that.
Right.
But it's the slow progression. So, like, I have a friend, um, and it really threw me off one night. We were having a get together or whatever, and we're playing some games and stuff, and um, they were drinking and enjoying themselves, and weren't as quick on their feet, with these word games
Right.
because you're under the influence.
Right.
But it was how he communicated to her. Well, you're just stupid. You're just dumb. I can't believe you wouldn't know.
Oh, no.
But for me, that was a slight indication you just showed yourself.
Right.
Because I get that we're competitive, but you can't be that competitive that you felt like it was okay
You call her dumb.
to call her dumb and stupid in front of everyone else. And it was the tone and the energy that was surrounded by it that really bothered me.
Right.
Because it let me know, okay, so what are you really like behind closed doors?
Right. When nobody's around.
Because abusers are very insecure. And a lot of people don't know that. Abusers are very insecure.
Right.
I mean, even psychopaths are very insecure. I mean, you want to learn about, serial killer, psychopath in that regard. Look up some Ted Bundy interviews, and you would be amazed at how insecure he really was.
Right.
Jeffrey Dahmer was very insecure. So insecurities are not as minuscule as people think that they are.
Right.
That's a red flag for me.
Wow.
It need to be a red flag for others. Now, I'm not saying that we all don't have a slight insecurity, but
Right.
how far does the insecurity go that it influences how you interact with others?
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So that's what I think about when I think about the manipulators,
Right.
those type of abusers. I think about their insecurities constantly needing to be validated and at the forefront. And those are the kind of abusers that I classify with your domestic violence abusers.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
your domestic violence abusers a lot of times don't have the communication skills. They don't have the security about themselves to be able to be in a healthy relationship.
Right.
But they need to isolate you. So you'll always see the warning signs in the beginning of where this is going to head. It's usually, it starts off great. They're very charismatic. They're doing all the right things. They're sweeping you off your feet. Then they start isolating you a little bit. I don't really like so and so, or so and so, seems to be really toxic.
Right.
Or why are these relationships that you have with these people, just really not benefiting you? They're kind of validating maybe some of the things that you've said that may have been negative about those people. Or it could just be that they're saying, oh, well, I see things that you don't see.
Right.
And you might start thinking about that because they start to play on you mentally and emotionally. They're trying to build you up, but at the same time, they're slowly breaking you down.
Right.
So it may be like, as time goes on, you're not going to do any better. Nobody wants you. You're stupid. You should be lucky that I'm here to take care of you, that I care about you. And as the abuse starts to progress, they're naturally going to pull away from people because they don't want people to see what's
Right.
going on inside the relationship.
Right.
But then it's going to be the first hit. And the first hit's going to catch you off guard.
Right.
But you're going to make an excuse for that. Because after they abuse you, it's going to be, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I should not have done that. I was just so angry. I can't believe that, we're even here in this argument and I just lost control, but it's never going to happen again.
Right. And that's the
And
thing.
then it happens again.
Right.
And it continues to happen and it continues to escalate. But as they're abusing you, they're also mentally and emotionally breaking you down with physical, with verbal negative, comments.
Right.
Nobody loves you. Your parents don't care about you. They wouldn't even, just stuff like that.
Right. Break your foundation.
But they usually go for people that are already broken. And a lot of times we don't look at that. We don't look at that when we're thinking about how does a person get abused? Well, they come from something that already doesn't give them solid ground.
Right.
Because if they had, affirmation about themselves and, a healthy spiritual life with Christ, and they, were mentally and emotionally stable, they would be looking and asking the questions before we even got here they would have saw all the red flags.
Right. And that's the thing. You said a powerful thing. It's like even with the isolation, how it's subtle. It's not like right away. They like kind of draw you away. But I notice even sometimes, right, outside of just relationships like man and woman, sometimes it could be woman and woman, and they're just homegirls or friends, and vice versa. It could be one of your homeboys. Whereas like now it's the same thing though. They're criticizing everybody else. Why do you hang with this person? It's like they're trying to isolate you. I want you all to myself. That's unnatural, right? But it's like, they're coming in the sense of I'm looking out for your best interest. I got your back. I know they don't really like you. They start dropping little seeds. And those people, once you start really like getting to know them, you start to see in their homes the domestic violence. You start to see the disrespect, the way they talk today. But it's like at first they come up kind of like an angel at light. Yes. Like they just got everything together. But it's those little signs, like you said. I've had situations like that where it's like homeboys I meet. And it's like we're hanging out, and now they start looking at, well, why you hang out with them? They don't really like you, right? Oh, They dropping these little seeds. Yeah. Because they're pretty much trying to get you over here because they're toxic and they need somebody to unleash this toxicity.
To be toxic with. Right. I wish that I might have you Google it. I don't know if you're there in front of a computer or not, but I'll have you Google it. It's a movie. Taye Diggs was in this movie. And it's a light-skinned dude that's in the movie. And the girl, I can't think of the girl name, save my life. I wish I could remember the name. I done seen this movie like 3 times. This movie
Not
is
the best man.
Huh?
Not the best man.
No.
With Taye Diggs and Terrence Howard?
No, it's not Terrence Howard. The dude's light skin, he's got like a beard, but it's kind of like, I want to say he's bald headed. It ain't Common.
It ain't brown sugar. Most deaf.
This ain't that. This ain't that common. It ain't like a. I'm gonna figure out the name of it before I leave. If I gotta go get my computer and pull it up, but this movie is so phenomenal because to me it paints the abuse in a perfect light. Like, and I know a lot of people seen the movie Enough with J Lo. That's a good description, but this movie is just so precise with these subtleties because you actually get to see the beginning of the relationship and you get to see it you get to see it progress.
Wow.
You really get to see it progress. And in the movie, you know, she was working and then he didn't want her to work. And then, you know, he wanted to be the provider. And that's something else you got to be careful for sometimes. Like sometimes somebody that wants to solely take care of you, there can be a red flag behind that. And that's an unfortunate thing because we as women should be able to, you know, if a man wants to and you're in a marriage, you're in a healthy relationship, that's something that you'll come to, but it shouldn't be a forced decision. But in this movie, it was a forced decision. And so she's at home, he's got all this money, he's working. Her biggest thing is she wants to have a child, she wants to have a family. He doesn't want that.
Oh, wow.
He said, if we have children, it's going to take away your attention and focus on me.
Right.
So there was already in it. So that was a red flag. But he
Exactly.
started hitting her. She would wear certain things to, like, you know, his dinner parties and things like that with his coworkers. And then he would accuse her of flirting if she was communicating. Oh, I saw how he looked at you and how you were laughing with him when you were talking with him. Next thing you know, he's beat. And you can just see her become a shell of a human being throughout this process to the point where she actually is working part-time. He doesn't know. And then, you know, she kind of, you know, fakes her own death to get away. And then she meets Tay Diggs because she lives next door. It's a really good movie. I'm like I said before the end of the show, if I gotta go grab my computer to find it, I will do that. Because I really think people should check it out. But they did a really good job on it. Great storyline and really just shows you the slow progression of how someone works when they're, you know, abusing you, or what kind of signs. And I always tell people that, you know, be careful about, you know, you got to be careful when you're broken in the first place about people's agendas of wanting to be in your life.
Right.
And really you should really reevaluate, you know, trying to take on relationships with people when you're kind of when you're in that state.
Right.
You know, because it opens you up, because you want to believe, you want to have, you want to see the potential. And a lot of times we do things based off of the potential that we think that something's going to be versus the reality of what it really is. Right. And I tell people, don't live for the potential. Focus on what's right here. Focus on what you can see, because that potential ain't gonna do nothing but get you somewhere you don't want it.
Right.
And it's never gonna be what you thought it was. So, you know, the manipulators and those kind of abusers, a lot of times they have grown up watching, especially in males, they have watched their fathers be demeaning, and, you know, they've abused them and their mothers. So they believe that that is how a man is supposed to interact within their household.
Right.
If I pay all the bills, if I do all of this, this is what I've built for us. It's going to be my way. And if you don't adhere to my way, then there's going to be consequences and repercussions. But a lot of times they're very insecure and they're very broken themselves. But they've built the outer facade to mask what is going on internally. But when you get into a relationship with a domestic abuser, sooner or later the mask has to come off. So now when it comes time to really have that vulnerability and build that intimacy, there isn't any of that. Right. But there are going to be spouts of great times. He ain't going to beat you all the time. But when he do, it's going to go down.
Right. He going to make up for all the other nights he did.
And then he's going to love on you and show you and keep you in that cycle. Because if the abuse was just solely abuse, but it was never good, you wouldn't stay. So it's the manipulation tactic of let me give you this love, let me love you down, let me treat you good, let me take you out to dinner, let me buy you a couple of things,
Right.
be kind until the next time.
Right.
But they're abusing you because of their own shortcomings. They're abusing you because of how they feel in situations. They feel threatened. Just like when he was beating her, after she came home, she wanted to wear her hair one way. She said, I want to wear it up, show off my neckline. The dress looks great with the
Right.
neckline. He said, no, you're going to wear
No.
it down
Right.
because it made him feel some kind of for someone else to look at her and to want to communicate with her. He can't see that as, okay, we at a dinner party, you talking and you're having a good time. You're not thinking anything of it. Everybody knows this is your wife. Ain't nobody doing all that. You know what I'm saying? But for you to, in your mind, make the situation so much greater than what it really was, shows the insecurity that he felt. And what's interesting is a lot of great looking people are some of the most insecure people in the world. And that was really what I enjoyed too about the movie is they made the guy. I mean, for a lot of women, they would think, oh my gosh, he's super good looking, but it goes to show you that the money and the outside has nothing to do with what somebody feels on the inside. You know what I'm saying? And so
Right.
I really thought that was a great part of, just the movie and really being able to enjoy. Like I said, they covered all their bases. Um, I'm sorry about that. It's supposed to be able to do that and start, but I guess it's just gonna ring anyway. So,
All right. You get.
um, so that's something to look for. But a lot of times, like I said, they come from abusive households. They themselves have either been abused or they have watched their fathers, physically abuse their mothers, and they've watched their mother's submissiveness and endurance and tolerance of that, and how she has responded to that situation. And a lot of times, we always say you end up with a 50% chance of how this is going to hardwire. Everybody in the hood doesn't sell dope.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Some people do, some people don't. Some people join gangs, some people don't.
Right.
Some people make it out the hood, some people don't. So it's always that 50% chance that with a trauma victim of that kind of stature is either going to become an abuser or not. And it also has to do with the relationship that they have with the father.
Right.
Because sometimes, a father may beat the mother, but he may never beat the son.
Right.
He may never beat the children.
Wow. That's deep right there. And you said a powerful thing too about being damaged, jumping into relationships and stuff like that, or jumping in too early. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like in them low times, right? Somebody comes in, whether it's a knight on the shining armor, or whether you feel like she's the angel on earth. They come
Right.
in, wine and dine you, build you up, right? You down. So now you feel like, yo, this person was here for me. But like you said, those insecurities, that vulnerability, is like a red flag for a manipulator. They
Mm-hmm.
can spot it a mile away. It's like a shark with blood in the water. They can see
Mm-hmm.
it. So now they prey on it, right? They build you up,
Mm-hmm.
wine and dine you, treat you real good. Now you feel obligated.
Oh yeah.
So now once they get their hooks in you now, it's like
Mm-hmm.
you stick with it sometimes. You begin to justify it because of a time where it was like, well, when I was down, they stepped in. Or they won't let you forget. When you was down, you remember it was me. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
like it's crazy how the manipulation ties into
Mm-hmm.
now even in that where it's like you start justifying it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like they can't be that bad. Or when I was low, this person was the only one there for me. The only reason they was the only one there for you because they took you and isolated you from everybody else. You didn't tell your family what was going on.
Right. And a lot of times they won't because they don't want to paint them in that negative light.
Right.
They don't want to hear the feedback of what someone's going to say. But a lot of times parents, those in your family can see it before you see it.
See it before you see it.
A lot of times they'll see it before you see it.
Right.
Like, I ain't really quite sure about that. You know, what's going on with that? And the more you start questioning, the more it's like, okay, we got to get the distance. We got to get the distance. Or let's move out of state. You know, I got a job here. We're gonna go here. You'll see it in people who, you know, manipulation tactics where maybe they were in a long-term relationship and he went to school and then he got a good job and now he put her through school.
Right.
Oh, why put you through school? I paid for that.
Right. Facts.
So, like what you're saying, is putting the hook in.
Right.
You know, and this is the thing that I tell people who I've worked with that have been in those kind of situations is it's not if somebody chooses to do something for you, then they chose to do something for you. But how do you feel like now you are responsible for what someone made the choice to do for you? Because if that's the way you think, you're forever going to be tied to that person,
right?
Because of something that they did for you. There are people that do things for people throughout their whole lives. You know, you come in contact with different people. People give you different things that you need. It could be advice. It could be a helping hand here. We all need somebody at some point. But I think for someone to dangle that over you, that's a red flag. Right. Don't get up out of there.
And that's a fact. I had a personal experience probably in the last 2 weeks. Friend of mine, right? In a bad situation, out of town, you know, in a relationship, same thing. He lured out of town, now she's out of town. Right now, it's, you know, honeymoon is over. They're not married, they're just dating. Ooh. So, you know, now that phase is fading away. The newness is wearing off.
Yes.
So now she's, you know, like, yo, he talking to me different. You know, the other day he called me out my name. So it was like, you know, a certain situation where they're around some friends and stuff like that, where they're meeting new people because they're both from out of town. So they're meeting new people, right? So it was like where at first they were a unit. 2 months now, he wants to be more social. So now, you know, these are my friends. So now, you know, she's at the table with other females. And now they're laughing at all the jokes. He's keying. He's looking a little too long. So she starts to feel disrespected, as anybody would. Says something. She becomes vocal. Hey, what's going on? You know, I'm sitting here. He looks and says, look, you ain't my girl. Now, she done left her family 10 hours away. 2 months, 3 months, however long they've been together. It's been honeymoon central. So it's been, you know, a new girl come around. They keying. She's starting to notice every time I'm not around, this girl is in his face. So, you know, me being a friend, I want to look at it from both sides. Like, okay, you can't just get mad at the girl now, because even if just because you ain't there, if she in his face, he got to let her know when you're not around.
Right.
So let's be real. I'm not throwing no shade on the player. Like, yo, but at the same time, you got to keep your head in this thing. You got to look at it for what it is. But the point of it is like, okay, 3 months in, she's been in heaven. Everything is lovey-dovey. You know what I'm saying? So it was like from 3 months to now, he turns and says, well, you're not my girl. So then I said, well, are you his girl? Well, she said, up until this point, I've been his girl. So then it's like, okay, so now she's going through that situation, right? So it's like, you know, I'm listening, but it's like in a situation like that, it's like until you're tired, nothing's going to change. So the long story short, right? The long story short, after the hour conversation, it's like, yo, you know, Sai don't want to be alone. So it's like you're willing to put up with the abuse, you're willing to put up with the disrespect, and your answer and your response is, I don't want to be alone. And now I'm out here 10 hours away.
Right. And she's teaching him that I will tolerate however you treat me. So there's no need for him to go out his way to improve his treatment.
Right.
And he's not going to.
Not going to. And that's a fact.
Because once you allow yourself to be disrespected X amount of time, you done showed them, okay, I can do this.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's kind of like, if I let somebody, if I because these are what we put in boundaries. Right. First of all, I tell people all the time, you crazy as all get out to be moving state lines with somebody you're not married to.
Right. Right.
First of all, we're not doing that. We going where? You going where?
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess if you gonna go and we not getting married, then you just gonna go.
Right.
We'll see how this thing work out.
Right.
But I'm not about to jump ship
Nah, I can't jump shit.
because you're in a new environment. New environment brings new things.
Right.
Now he's like, oh, okay, I'm up here, see what's out here. He sees, and the girl's not putting, and the girl is showing that she's not bothered by the fact that he lives with a woman. So she's letting me know, the other girl's letting me know that she's not asking the right questions because they don't make no sense.
Right.
But she has to decide, is being alone better than enduring this emotional and mental abuse that he's about to put her through?
Right.
Because there's no guarantee that he's going to be physical with her, but he
Right.
still may mentally and emotionally continue to abuse you.
Right.
For someone to look at you and say, you're not my girl, that was the first step.
Yeah, how would you mean to laugh?
Now, you ain't got to tell me, look, you ain't got to tell me more than once. This ain't a conversation we finna have. This ain't none of that. You said it. Don't worry about it. I pack my bags. I get up out of here.
Right.
But a lot of times, too, people are afraid to turn around and go back because they're worried about what other people think. Stop worrying about what other people think about your life and understand that everybody done been through something. Sometimes it is just what it is. You had to learn the lesson. Learn the lesson, process it, and figure out what it is that you need to reevaluate about yourself that got you into that situation. See, that's the common thing when it comes to abuse, is you have to evaluate how you got there. At what point did you start to see the red flags, but you just let that go?
Right.
Because we use this word love so loosely. Oh, I fell in love. No, you opened yourself up to fall in love. To love someone every day is a choice. That's not something God you, because if that's the case, I'm just gonna throw it out here so people don't get mad. I don't care what you say. If love was not a choice, the world would be perfect, and there would be no need for free will.
Right.
There would be none. Free will exists because God doesn't want to force us to love him. He wants us to do so freely because he loved us first. So you wake up every day choosing to love someone. Now, there's a difference to say, hey, I always have love for you and the time that we shared together, and I appreciate that, and I learned some things, even though this isn't going to work out. Hey. But I'm making the choice at this point to remove and to cut off this supply of love that I'm giving you because this isn't a two-way street.
Right.
Because love isn't supposed to be abusive.
Right. Now that's a fact.
Love should not be something that you got to endure pain to have some small, memorable, amazing moments. See, but we get wrapped up in the wrong thing. Like I said, if people would stop sleeping around with each other and being so quick to do that, you wouldn't be tying yourself emotionally to something. You would have the clarity and the know-how to actually vet out the person that you're dating. And if you're truly healthy, you'll vet out and ask the questions that you really need to ask. But again, people, I don't want to apply no pressure. We so desperate that you don't want to apply no pressure. You that desperate?
Wow.
Look, I'm going to tell you something. I done told my husband, I said, when he dies, I'm done. If he leave me, if the good Lord take my husband before he take me, I promise you, I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. I've had my one and done. Because I feel bad for the single people out here. But really, they have more power than they realize they have if they will be willing to make some change.
Right.
But I'm going to leave that where it's at. We'll get into that. We get into the relationship series. But
right.
Then you have what I like to call, we've all seen, since we were talking about spirituality, I don't know if a lot of people have been through this, but I'll touch briefly on it. You got to be careful about your spiritual abusers. We see this in churches. The pastor that's sleeping with all the women, or you got a pastor that's a pedophile and he's messing around with kids, right? I like to call those are the cults, the more of the cult style thing. Right. But I'm going to kind of bundle this into one bracket. We have got to, in society, understand that every man that steps into a pulpit is not ordained by God. Yes. We can go to seminary school now. Anybody can go to school to be a pastor. Right. Anybody can go to seminary school, theology, get all the information they need, and go ahead and have them put it on a degree now that you are an ordained minister. But if you were not called by God, it's a big difference. You take the glory, you put the glory on you. Right. When you're in a spiritual leadership position, you're bringing the word to the people, but you're being used as a vessel by God. Right. That means the glory is not for you, the glory is to God. Right. Definitely. I think sometimes these pastors, and I call this the manipulation tactic also, but I feel like we all want to believe in something, right? Even an atheist believes in something because they believe in nothing. Right. So if you believe in nothing, but you believe in something, you believe that when you die, you go nowhere. It's just black. You're just out there. Everybody knows Socrates wanted to prove that point, that there was nothing beyond the other side, that he drank poison and killed himself, which, if you think about it, was stupid, because you killed yourself to prove a point that you can't prove to nobody else because you did. It ain't like you died and came back. Right. So I always found that story to be very interesting, that he wanted to prove so greatly that there was nothing. But you can't come back and tell nobody that there's nothing. But so even atheists believe in something. You believe that there's nothing. You believe in the idea that, the Big Bang Theory, whatever. Right. But you believe in that. People who believe in God. And it's interesting because when you look at Christianity, you can divide that in a couple of different sections. Some people believe in Christianity with the rapture. Some people believe in Christianity and that you got to go through the 7 years of trials and tribulations. Some people believe that, hey, we are not exempt from that. I'm one of those people. I just don't believe. I just don't believe that we're not going to have to endure what God calls Jacob's trouble when it comes. I don't believe that. I believe that we're going to have to go through that. That is going to be the ultimate test of faith. On the other hand, you got people that believe that they're going to be raptured. You got people that believe, you got churches, that are open to, the LGBTQ, and they preach a different kind of message about love, and they don't talk about sin, but they talk about love, and God doesn't hold us accountable for sin. His love washes away sin. So you have a different version of Christianity. Then you have, like your Catholics. They believe in something completely different. They don't believe that you go through God, that you go through Jesus to get to the Father. They believe that you go through Mary to get to Jesus. And if you notice, they always show Jesus as an infant. Like Jesus is just some helpless little baby in the manger. Jesus grew up. Jesus died at 33. But I find it to be interesting because when you're dealing with these things, right, we are innately designed to want a connection with something greater than ourselves, right? So you got people that practice Satanism and the people out there that, believe that they're practicing witches. I mean, I was on TikTok the other day scrolling, and I'll see people with the tarot cards and doing readings. That just keep on scrolling. I look. Jesus knows, please, I don't play around with it. I've heard stories about people on Instagram the people will try to, go get your name, and they praying. See, it's just
too much.
But this is the thing, again, about being solid, right? Because we all know that there's something innately different and greater than us. We just don't, everybody doesn't have that clear, decisive moment, right?
Right.
So I think we want to be connected with a higher power. But whether you got Buddhism or, in India, they got like 3 million gods, they believe it. So we all want to believe in something. Muslims, all of us, right? We all want to believe in something.
Right.
To the point where, but we also want to find the doctrine that best suits us. Right? We want to be led in a comfortable way.
Right.
What makes me feel good. So I think that it's easy to get swept up and to find yourself spiritually abused because we have put so much emphasis in these different brackets of categories that we're so led by the man that's supposed to be leading the sheep, as the vessel connection between God and the people, that they have omitted God, and they have now treated the pastor like Christ.
Right.
I fell out when I saw the clip of T.D. Jakes. Look, black people get mad at me all they want to. I don't fool with T.D. Jakes. I tell T.D. Jakes in his face, I don't fool with T.D. Jakes.
Right.
T.D. Jakes that had Tyler Perry come on stage and lay hands on him. Look, we're doing too much. This whole thing is a show. Right. But see, we don't want to, and with the spiritual abuse, I tell people, if you're really looking to seek God, you continue to seek God outside of the building.
Right. Right.
You don't get to go to church, read whatever doctrine, okay, whatever doctrine you believe in, and not research that doctrine.
Right.
Because I can't tell you what to believe. Right. I can tell you what I believe. But when we're not willing to go beyond the scope of the person in the pulpit, right, they become the charismatic. And now that opens them up. It opens the door. And you'll see these women, and I've seen women in black churches, right, and the way they look at these pastors. I remember Jamal Bryant. I thought he was a great pastor back in the day. So I found out he had 6 kids. Right. With different women in the church. Right. So you're using your position of power and authority to manipulate the followers.
Right. And that's the thing. I want to make 2 points real quick. Even on that, like you said about going to church is a relationship. You got to have that relationship. You got to put the work in. It's kind of like going to the gym. Right. You got to put the work in. They can't do it for you. So, when people go to church, it's like, if you're studying the way God intended, we're fellowshipping with God. We're praying with God. We're in the Word. We're meditating on the Word. When we go into the building, as the pastor begins to teach, or whoever the minister is that's teaching the lesson, it shouldn't be your first time hearing it. So it's like once they start talking, it should quicken your spirit to be like, okay, boom. Now they may break it down and give you a better understanding, but it should never be your first time hearing it when the pastor comes up. And then on the other side, it's like, okay, with the ministry comes titles, position, power, stuff like that. Now you have, both sides of the spectrum. You have some people that's doing the manipulating. I've been in ministry, right? Been on the platforms, been sitting up there with the bishops and stuff like that. Now, what I can tell you from my personal experience, not in every church. I can't speak for every church because I haven't been in every church. But in a lot of the black churches that I've been in, they find out, oh, you have a title, you're connected to somebody with power. It's no different than being at a rap concert for me. Right. Because it's like that first 2-3 rows is like, okay, boom, you seeing, and you would be surprised, women, some legs gapped open, no panties. and you're sitting on a pulpit and you're trying to stay focused, but they're out. Some, not everybody.
Right.
Some, because they're trying to land no different than the girl at the basketball game. I want a ball.
Right.
I want a rapper. I want somebody successful in the church, the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Sad to say, is a lot of women that's title chasing. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you got a title, you know, that's all they care about. They don't care about your background. They don't care about even if you're living right. I just want to be a first lady, or I want to be connected to the title. While we're talking about spirituality real quick, 4 good books. Purpose Driven Life, I'm pretty sure everybody know about Rick Warren. Great book. It's a book by my bishop. It's called The Little Boy in Me for All Men, where it's talking about, like you're saying, traumas and different lives, where it's taking you back to that age 12. It's taking you back to 7. It's taking you back to 13, your first heartbreak, the first time you was insecure, and it helps you deal with yourself. And it's called The Little Boy in Me. How a lot of times, even as grown men, we still holding on to the little boy things. We still got the little boy syndrome, and we never grew up. And not saying every area, but we still have some areas in our life that we haven't grown up with, where we brushed under the rug and we never dealt with. Then there's a book that ties into what we're talking about now. It's called Authority Abusers. Right? So, you know, when we talk about authority abusers, those people in position over you that use that they manipulate you and use that position to control you, you know. And I done been in churches literally where it's like, okay, if you get somebody to offer you a job position, I done seen pastors tell their congregations, you need to talk to me first. Or if you want to date, you need to talk to me first. Oh, you just got paid, we're gonna sit down and do a business plan and stuff like that, where it's total control. And it's like, if you don't have a relationship on your own, you can easily fall under abuse. You can easily fall under manipulation and stuff like that. I've even had people say, y'all can't hear God. When it's like, when we're praying and you're communing with God, God is going to communicate with you on your level.
Right.
I've seen over the pulpit during a sermon, y'all can't hear God.
Right.
The Bible clearly says he ripped down the veil that we can all go before the throne of grace.
That's right.
His pastors up there, they're preaching something totally different. Like, you don't hear God. You need to talk to me. You need, and it's like they're building themselves up. No relationship. And I say that to say, you're definitely on when it's like, when you're saying in spirituality, a lot of times they start to worship men more than God. And then it's the 4th book, and it's like the title alone says it all. Witchcraft in the Pews. And it's written by Bishop George Bloomer. The last 3 books I just named, The Boy in Me, Authority Abusers, and Witchcraft in the Pews. It's all written by George Bloomer. And that's what he does, spiritual warfare. Where it's like, you know, bondage, getting people set free, drugs, you know, abuse and stuff like that. Outreach. Definitely good reads for people that's out there. But it's like, when you say manipulation in the church, that's one of the biggest things. And then people get church hurt. Now they give up on God. I'm not going back to church. You never tried God. You tried the man.
You tried the church.
Right.
And I agree. And I agree with that. And I think those are some really great books that you have that you had mentioned. I have never read The Purpose Driven Life. So I can't verify whether or not, but I'm definitely interested in checking out some of the books that you read, that you named off. So I'm gonna have to have you probably shoot me a text and let me know so I can look those up. But I actually, my pastor is online, and I follow Charles Lawson. He's out of Nashville, Tennessee, and I really enjoy him. And another pastor, he passed away, but I can still watch his stuff on YouTube. His name was Derek Prince. And I remember him doing a sermon, and he was talking about how, you know, we have the ability ourselves to, you know, cast out spirits and demons. Right. And it's the 7 steps, and it's all biblical. Like, this man, he never shouts. He's very soft spoken, but he was going into this church. And when he got out there, he said he had prayed. He said, I'm sorry that I'm late. He said, but I had to pray. Right. He said, I've never been in front of an audience this big. He said, and to be honest with you, I didn't want to do it. He said, but God told me I needed to do it. She said, so I wanted to make sure that I, put my face to the ground.
Right.
So that, God does this and not me. He said, this is, I'm just the vessel.
Right.
But I take no glory in ever stepping on any stage, or any pulpit.
Right. Right.
He's the most humble. He was like the most humble. I mean, if he was still alive, like I wish that I would have had an opportunity to see him. Just his name is Derek Prince. He truly is phenomenal, and it's a different kind of connection I think I have with him, because he is a teacher.
Right.
He's a teacher of the word, but he's also a minister of the word, and the way they come together is just it's something very different. Right. But I do agree with what you were saying about women in the church, and I do believe that there are women in the church that are chasing titles, because we were talking about, me and my husband were talking about it. He said women are addicted to wanting men of power. Right. And I think, and as we talked about it, I really thought about it. And I was like, okay, I'll go there with you. I'll entertain this, because at first I want to be like, that ain't true. But then it's like, okay, I'll entertain. Right. And the more we actually talked about it, the more I could see where he was making sense. Because women want security. So we attach the security to, if he's in power and he's got money, then I'm going to be secure. Right. That's security for me. But we don't really, we need to broaden, we need to not be so narrow scoped when it comes to security, because men in power is not always what you want, and absolute power corrupts absolute power. You know what I'm saying? So you keep on wanting power, and power is a corrupter of itself. And right. That's why I say, you see this, you see it with the Jim Jones. We took all them people to Africa, and when they finally got hit, what was going on? They wanted up out of there. They couldn't even get up out of there.
They can't go now. Too far.
All them people committed suicide. Fear, driven, manipulated, and brainwashed. These cults play on, and I won't even just say cults, but there are spiritual leaders in the world that will prey on your desire to want to serve, to prey on your desire to want to believe, to prey on your hope. I mean, look at the Catholic Church. I have researched the Catholic Church unlike anything other, and we won't get into all of that because they're going to kick us off YouTube. They're going to kick us off YouTube, so we're going to keep it live.
Right, the RCs.
I'm talking about, we smooth going to get banned from YouTube. Right. But there's people that have come out. The girl, she went missing. I found her documentary 2 years ago. You don't get to see her face. It's all voice. But she talked about being a nun and going through the process when she was young, because when you're raised Catholic, that is the greatest honor that a young girl can do, is to become a nun. She talks about her experience. If you want to call me a conspiracy theorist, go check out, go listen to her 2-hour testimony. Right. Boy, and she talked about how, just a prime example, that these pastors, because they, these priests and the cardinals, and however their sector lays out. You got the Pope, you got the cardinals, you got the bishops, you got the priests. It's kind of like a little hierarchy step that they have. Right. But she talks about priests raping girls. They rape the young nuns. They take their innocence. Wow. She said a lot of them actually smoke and they drink. They don't believe in that being sin, because they believe in, if anybody knows anything about history, just give you a quick history lesson, because history is absolutely my favorite topic. If I was ever going to be a teacher, that's what I would have taught, was history. But because I think they don't tell the truth enough.
They don't. Instead of fighting to not tell it.
Right. So the Catholic Church got their money back in the day way back in the day for selling indulgences.
Wow.
So if you wanted to commit a sin, if you paid for it first, then the Catholic Church would go ahead and say, okay, you want to go commit adultery, or you go commit a murder, or you want to get your family out of purgatory, because they believe in purgatory.
Right.
You pay us a fee, you can go and commit this sin, and the sin is forgotten.
Wow.
So people back in the day would pay for those indulgences. They would pay to sleep with somebody else's wife. They would pay to be drunk. They would pay to, and go and commit all these sins.
Right.
And the 7 deadly sins are really the Catholic sins. Because we know in Christianity, we believe in the 10 commandments,
Right.
which are the 10 greatest sins that open the door to
Everything
other
else.
sins. So they believe in the 7. They believe in the 7 deadly sins, which I've actually watched the documentary they did a long time ago on the History Channel, and I actually messed around and bought the DVD back then because I was like really wanted to kind of like understand more and try to find the correlations between
Right.
those and the 10 Commandments. But that's how the Catholic Church made their money. They made their money off of selling indulgences.
Right.
And if anybody knows anything about Martin Luther, who actually started the Protestant quote unquote movement, which was actually very different than the Protestants of today. They've
Right.
gotten kind of lost from the initial movement. But Martin Luther called the Catholic Church out on it.
Wow.
And so the Catholic Church beheaded him for that. Because he was like, you can't do that.
Right.
You can't sell sin. The Catholic Church said, oh yes, we can.
Right.
And the Catholic Church was also they are the wealthiest entity on the planet. Entity in itself, they're the wealthiest entity on the planet. And majority of almost half of the population is Catholic. So it's very interesting on that.
Right.
And but they also wanted to burn and ban all Bibles.
Right.
And St. Augustine finished the work. The first print press was ever made was in Germany. So everything had to get printed in Germany. And St. Augustine, I think he spoke like seven different languages. So I can't remember. It's a history lesson that I can't even remember all the 100% detail. But there was a guy that started wanting to make sure that Bibles were made in every language that, so people could have them. And the Catholic Church tried to shut that down by killing him. And then St. Augustine was already aware, so he finished the work. They said he spoke the 7 languages like he spoke them as his native tongue. That's how great he spoke the language.
Oh, wow.
So he continued to partner with the guy in Germany to get the books printed. Well, the Catholic Church actually paid the guy in Germany $50,000 to stop printing Bibles, but he actually took that money and used it for more paper and ink supplies and continued to print Bibles. But the Catholic Church actually tried to rally up every Bible that they could and burn them, which if you think about the Catholic Church now, they have the catechism.
Right.
And the catechism is age appropriate for each stage, but Catholics are not allowed to have Bibles.
Right.
Because the Pope says that having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ is dangerous and that we're not equipped to be able to do that.
Right.
So we need to go through the channels, right? We need to go through the appropriate channels within the Catholic Church to have that relationship because the Pope is all holy. He is God incarnate, according to what they believe.
Right.
I mean, think about the humiliation. I think about the Catholic Church, and I think a lot about the suppression of what's happening and why the abuse in the Catholic, Church is so high.
Right.
Because these men are taught to number one, no sex. That sex is forbidden when you're at this level. God never said that in the Bible. God does not say that sex is a sin. Sex is a sin when you're not married.
Right.
It's fornication. But he doesn't say that sex itself is a vile act. that nobody should do it.
Right.
But I think about the suppression. I think about the young boys that are, in their transitions. How many of them have been sexually abused by priests?
Exactly.
So you have to think about what is the entity of this foundation. I mean, I know what it is, but like I said, we're not going to get on there because YouTube gonna shut us down.
Right.
But for those of us that are not aware, like, why is it that this is happening repeatedly
Right.
within this particular sector of religion? They're abusing these boys left and right.
Right.
I mean, it comes out all the time. Then you got little girls saying when you're going through your nunhood that the priests are raping the girls. They're taking their innocence.
Right.
Supposed to make them more holy to give their innocence to the priest.
No.
And then you can't read the word of God for yourself. And you're sending your kids to Catholic schools or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You're thinking about what information they're getting, but they're not able to go and research that information. So that information that you want them to have is in this catechism, or this book that it's going to validate what it is that you say.
Right.
But there's nothing to oppress or to go against what it is that you say. This is oppression at its finest level.
Right.
So not only do you have the ability to manipulate, brainwash, but how many people, especially children, want to appease authority figures?
Right. Right.
That's why when we see the pedophilia abuse, because these kids, it's always an authority figure. It's always somebody they know. This ain't no random person snatching up no kid. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. We're not saying it doesn't happen, because it does happen. But most of the time, with children that are sexually assaulted, it is done by somebody they know. And it is somebody in authority. Think about the teachers that are coming out now. All these stories about teachers having sex with their students.
Right.
I mean, here you putting a 21-year-old teacher in a high school. She just got out of high school herself.
Right.
A couple years ago, so she's still going to have a connection to those that are like 17, 18, 16, because it's still, your brain ain't 100% transitioned over.
That song, come on.
Right, because it won't. But when you got teachers that are 34, 32, 26, 27, you sleeping with 14-year-old kids, it's pedophilia. Like we have gotten somewhere in this country where we're not taking enough safety measures.
Definitely.
But pedophiles will only abuse children they know. And in the Catholic Church, it happens because it's happening under religious authority.
Right.
So they're able to, this is what God wants. God says that this is okay. We don't look at how pedophilia really is one of the darkest abuses since the beginning of time.
Right.
Like, really, since if we can move past, I can't say everything that happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. I can only say what God put out there. But when I look at the research, like, and you look in like Iraq, boys are able to start having, males are boys are age appropriate at age 7.
Right.
In Greece, you can start courting a boy at 7, but you can't actually penetrate him until he's 16.
Oh wow. Wait a minute. Whoa. Wait. Say that
Yeah,
again. Wait, whoa, whoa. I didn't
in
hear that
Greece,
right.
the country there, they actually believe. You got to think you're over there by Rome. Rome was known for its very different sexual appetites,
Right,
orgies
right, right,
and things like that. Rome was known to be off the chain back in the day when it came to that.
right,
But in Greece, they have kind of adopted, because Greece and Rome, they're like right here, they're like right here. So they believe that in sex with men, but you can't. You have to court a child for X amount of time. So you're allowed to start courting him, but you're not able to sleep with him until he's 16. In Iraq, women are not, it's interesting because in Iraq, women are just for reproduction.
right.
Men are for pleasure. I mean, we have been riding in Humvees in certain cities, and you would see men holding hands. It's not. So you got to think about what ideologies we pass down from around the world.
Right.
So this pedophile nature has been strongly promoted. The Kensington Institute, which is still open in Indiana, has been promoting that since the 50s when they did the sexual studies with parents, fathers and grandfathers and uncles with their daughters, nieces, granddaughters, and all of that. The biggest sexual experiment, the most, but also a pedophile in an incestual experiment, happened in the 50s, and the institute is still open to this day, and their primary study is sex. And nobody has said anything about it.
Right.
It's one of those things. It's just really like, so when I think about like your pedophile abusers or your pedophiles or your sexual abusers, you got to think about what happened to them.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the abuse that happens in families is because it's been happening in families.
Right.
Granddad did it to, you know, mama, or maybe brother did it to sister. Now brother's doing it to sister's children. This is something that's just continually being passed down.
Right.
You have to, I feel like we know the signs a little bit more than we want to give ourselves credit. Pedophiles take a little too much interest in children,
Right.
just a little too much interest. And I say keep the lines of communication open with your children, because children don't lie. So make sure that you're always having an open flow of conversation and creating a safe space and a safe environment to have those conversations. Because when you don't, these things happen under the rug. Just like being an adult, we want people to be open and honest with us and be vulnerable with us. They're not going to do that as adults without a safe space. So we still need to be able to create that safe space for children to feel that same thing. We all need a safe space in order to be able to communicate that. You know what I'm saying? So, but with pedophiles or with sexual abusers, the act of sex with a child is not about the act of sex itself. It's about the gratification that we get from, or the act of gratification that they get from harming a child.
Right.
It's about the helplessness,
Wow.
being able to have control and power. So you connect the deviant act. See, we were talking about that last week a little bit, and I think I hit it a little bit when we were talking about it. But it's more so about the first experience for a victim, of being of sexual assault. Right? They're now connecting this act with the deviancy and learned behavior that was done to them. So
Right.
it's deviant and it's learned. they think that this is okay.
Right.
So now that behavior continues because now it's about the deviancy. I'm getting off on, the fact that you're helpless and that you're weak and that, I can abuse you and you're helpless.
Right.
That is the gratification that's attached to it. That's the heightened part of the sex. And I keep bringing Ted Bundy up, but Ted Bundy made a dope statement in his interview, I tell people all the time, if he was alive, I probably would have wrote it because I think that he had a lot. I think he had a wealth of knowledge, and I think a lot of times we don't really look at an opportunity to learn so that we don't create some of the same mistakes over again. But he made the statement about pornography. He said pornography is part of the big reason that I have some of the twistedness to some of his crime.
Wow.
The act of his crime was really for some, like he was on a different level with it. He had a lot of stuff in his background that kind of contributed to his emotional and mental breakdown. That kind of made him, the psychopath that he was. We're not talking about, his victims in that context because they all looked alike for a particular reason.
Right.
But the actual act of what he would do to the bodies. He talked about how pornography was a progression. And he was real about that. Right. So you start off watching a girl at this age, it's going to get younger and younger because eventually you desensitize. Right. So we're actually possibly in society making more pedophiles than we realize because of the porn industry.
Right.
I mean, when you go to a pornography site, how old do these kids? How old do they look? They try to make them look younger and younger and younger. So I just, sexual predators who've never learned to heal, victims who've never gotten the help they need, they have that 50% chance themselves of being abusers. And we know that women pedophiles, and there are women pedophiles, most of the time they only abuse children they know. They only abuse children they know. Now, you can say that men pedophiles do not always abuse children that they know. Doesn't necessarily have to be a family member. It could be, you got married and now you're abusing your daughter's, your wife's kids. It can be, a neighbor's kids. But with women pedophiles, it solely is children that they know. And a lot of times their background consists of repeated sexual trauma as a young age. And they've been abused by multiple people. So they're only doing what they've learned. That's why I always say, you really should look at women that are promiscuous. They have promiscuity issues as an adult. Women that we say are thottish, or they're hoes, or really think about why they are like that.
Right, the background.
What kind of trauma? How many times have they been sexually assaulted? Have they been sexually assaulted by, what age bracket? Because a lot of times you turn something on when you start abusing children. Yeah. But a lot of times, like, again, they don't get the help they need. Everybody doesn't end up that way. So, a female that's been sexually abused may not become a predator, but she may grow up with some real serious issues.
Right.
Always thinking that her worth is between her legs. Right. Sleeping with every man that she can sleep with, thinking that there's going to be a connection. Wow. Because this is what someone in her life that was close to her deemed as the most important thing about her. That was emphasized. Right. I like the song by Wale. A lot of people, they were playing it in the clubs and all that, but that song, "I'll Be Bad to You."
Right.
Come on, I feel like he was. I feel like he was. The song spit a lot of more truth than people actually paid attention to.
Right.
But a lot of times people just listen to music. They skim through the music. They like the beat. They don't actually listen to the lyrics no more. So, and in your narcissist, we talked about narcissists already. We kind of talked about them. Severe victims of trauma, damaged parental relationships, are the direct cause of the narcissist. Histrionic personality disorder is a direct result of severe sexual trauma for women. Um, so I think that there are things here that we could really look at. I know we didn't go over every abuser under the sun. We kind of talked about substance abuse. Substance abusers. Um, that is a victim of trauma. So the key point that I was trying to paint out today is whether it's something that we want to believe in, something that you know on a religious aspect, on a domestic violence level, on a sexual predator level, on a narcissistic level. It all boils down to somebody being abused. And here's the bottom line: you don't have the ability to save them. There's nothing that you can do. You're not clinically trained for that. And even if you were clinically trained, you can't help someone in these situations and then have without having a biasness attached to it. But it is so important that those who have been victimized in any kind of victimization, that they get the help that they need so that they don't hurt other people, so that they can go ahead and grow up to be healthy, happy adults, and that they can have healthy, happy relationships with their families and the children that they produce into this world. We could really talk about this all day. There's so much information to really go through. I try to keep it as light as possible. But I just want to say I appreciate y'all. And, I thank you, for your time. And thank you, Sai, for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's definitely real and definitely needed, because like you said, it's like if you can't spot it, you never know, and you be walking in it, or you may be the one that's being the abuser, or you may be the victim. So it's
Right.
definitely important to point out the signs to look for and the background of how it becomes, because like you said, it don't just happen overnight. A lot of
No.
times it's like you never dealt with it, and then
Hmm.
it turns into a full blown. Now you're an abuser, or you're
Yeah.
doing the same exact thing that was done to you. Kind of like the kid that got picked on. So
Hmm.
it's like he didn't have a voice. Now he gets home and it's like his family, they're telling him, you be quiet, and he's suppressing all this stuff.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then one day he pops his top, and now he's a serial killer. Same
He's
serial
the kid
killer.
at school. He's the kid at school that bullies everybody else,
Right.
because he gets bullied at home. That's why I said there's so many different types of ways to classify abusers. You know what I'm saying? There's
Right.
so many different little red flags and key notes. But anytime I see somebody that I know that is being abusive to somebody else, I know it's because they're having an abusive situation themselves that they're not aware of. And
Right.
just like with my friend, when I said the guy had said that she was stupid and dumb, and come to find out at home, within his circle, everything's always his fault.
Wow.
He's always got to be the one to apologize. So
Right.
he's not a great communicator. So there were things that let you know in his upbringing that he didn't feel like he had control over. So
Right.
now, if I'm able to have control, I'm going to give you the same demeanness that they gave to me, because I need to be able to feel inferior somewhere. And that's what it's about.
Right.
Even with the sex crimes, you know, adult men that rape women, it's not about the act of rape itself.
Right.
We see women get raped all the time. It's not just on a child level, like, but it's about the act of control.
Wow.
Women make that individual feel inferior. He can't communicate with women. He can't talk to women. Maybe he's been called ugly. Maybe he has some scarring on his face. Maybe he has a stutter. Maybe he's not that educated when he talks. Something has happened that he feels like he cannot approach a woman and have a healthy conversation with her that's going to lead to some kind of healthy sexual relationship. So the act is to rape. And people, you got to get past the act itself. The act is it's not about the sex. The sex is a part of it, but it's not solely about the sex. I need you to feel me. And you'll hear certain, like if you ever hear about victims who have been raped, adult women or even young, I would say like teenage, maybe like 16, 17, 18 women that have been raped. You'll ask them if the abuser ever said anything to them while he was raping them. It's a very, very common thing. Tell me that you like it. Tell me that you love me. Tell me, I need to feel wanted and gratified, but at the same time, I can only have this if you're helping.
Right. The validation.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's a lot of different, like I said, there's a lot of different types of abuse. We could go over, the mental brainwashing of gangs. There are so many different forms in which abuse comes in. And I think that the bottom line is, if you know someone who's being abused, do your best to lend a hand. Make sure that you open up for availability to help them get the help that they need. If they don't want your help, then there's not a whole lot that you can do. But if it is a child in that situation, then you have to be the voice of reason, and you have to help them.
Right. You have to ASAP. Right. You gotta get them out of there.
So I think we're wrapping trauma series.
Trauma.
We're wrapping up trauma. I have enjoyed the trauma series. Like I said, there's a lot of information. We could really do this show forever. Like, I mean, you really could. You could really get into the nit and gritty and start picking pieces here and there that you really want to touch on. But I really do appreciate the time that I had on the show. Right. I've always tried to keep it in layman's terms, so that it's understanding and relatable to other people. But I'm very, very excited to introduce that we're going to be doing the relationship series, which I think is going to be real. Yeah. I meant to tell you too. I gotta get one of your shirts because I want to wear a Proof Podcast shirt for the beginning of the relationship series. I want to be able to support that, as we go into the first episode of the show. I know that we're not going to be back next Sunday, but we'll be back the Sunday after. I think you said that's the 15th. So we'll be back on the 15th for the very first episode of the relationship series, and I think we're going to be doing it every Sunday after that, right?
Every Sunday.
Okay. So
what time did we decide?
Huh?
What time did we decide? What time on Sunday?
I think we decide. Did we decide 7?
I think it's 7. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure 7 on Sundays every day from the 15th forward. Every day is Sunday relationships.
Yeah, so I'm super excited. I want to just let everybody know who's watching. If you got topics, things that you want us to talk about, please go ahead and put those, send them out to us, in our DMs or whatever, our messenger, get it out there so that we can kind of go ahead and start prepping for that, because we are putting together the topic list and getting it kind of set up so that it all flows together. We want your feedback, your input. I'm super excited. I hope y'all ready for this, because some people ask for it. So I just want to let you know that this is going to be something different. Right. And we touched on relationships here and there throughout this process, but y'all get it in a whole nother form. So I hope y'all ready. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to do it with you guys. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely excited about it. Definitely looking forward to that. That's August 15th, 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Start the relationship series. And I'm definitely excited about that, because at the same time, it's not just about relationships. It's actually teaching how to have a healthy relationship.
Yes.
how to have a lasting relationship, and the do's and don'ts and the warning signs and stuff like that. So it's going to be a lot of information. So whether you're in a relationship or you're single, you're still going to get information that you can use on both sides.
And we're
So I'm
also going
definitely
to talk
excited.
about in-law. We'll talk about, our families and how those things combined in relationships. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. So it's really going to get really nice. It's going to talk about, what about when you're dating someone that has children and things like that. So we're really going to get into some good things, some communication, more boundaries, more standards, and just how your outlook and perception on certain things, and when you're dating, how does that outlook go? So I'm just really excited to be here and really excited to present it. So I need y'all to come in with an open mind,
Right.
get ready to take some notes, and really be willing to set yourself up for success.
And that's the thing right there. Come in and be expecting to grow. Like we're gonna
Yes.
grow together. We're gonna get the information. Not only we're gonna be listeners of the information, we're gonna actually apply it to our lives, and then we're gonna walk in the healthy relationships. And that's in every relationship. That's at the job. That's with your lover. That's with parents, your kids.
Yes.
Healthy relationships is what we're promoting. But most importantly, we're talking about love. Everybody
That's
wants
right.
to be in love, but it's the right way. I think Keith Sweat made the song. It's the right way and the wrong way to love somebody. So we're
To
gonna
love
help y'all do
somebody.
it the right way. Yo.
Hey,
We're
you
gonna
know
do
you was crying on that record too while you talking. He was crying on that record, boy. That baby
it.
was
He was loving somebody the wrong way. And they done flipped it back on him. Yo. That's what happens when you try to be a player. Keith Sweat did a lot of crying.
Keep sweating a lot of crying. You know who else was so good was Joe as Carl Thomas. Look,
Joe,
don't
Carl
get
Thompson.
it together now.
Yeah, Joe and Carl Thompson, yo, that was the thing right there. My guy, I ain't gonna front. He was toxic. I know he was toxic.
Who he
Orange Juice Jones. He was stalking mode. Orange Juice Jones walking in the rain. Yo, man, he was very narcissistic,
Yeah.
very toxic. Yo, but that's how it is. Yo. That's
He said
definitely
he
how
said
it
he
is.
said he said he was the one though. That's what he said. He said he was the one.
Yeah.
Look, don't get me started
Man.
on Ralph Tresvant sensitivity. That's my jam right there.
That
Now
was the
look,
jam
I
right
bump
there.
that. I
Yeah,
bump
Ralph
that.
Tresvant. Yeah,
I
Ralph
like that.
Tresvant. I wanted him to do a lot more, but
I
he still had a
did.
blessed career. But yeah,
Look,
Ralph Tresvant.
Cruz said, you saw what happened. He said that was it. He said he done left New Edition. That was it.
That was it. Yeah, that was it. That was it. Yeah,
New Edition was the bomb back in the day, though.
definitely. Still is. Still is. I salute them
Yeah,
to
if
this
you if
day.
you listen to throwbacks, that's all I listen to is throwback
Yeah.
music. I can't do the. Speaking of, we talking about music right quick. You see that new what's that new song that Cardi B did with the girl? What's it called? Wild. And it's called Wild and Cruise.
I haven't seen that yet.
It's a grown up song. It's a grown up song.
I still ain't got over the last one she did. I'm taking it
No,
slow with Cardi right now.
I can't do that one. But this one's a grown up song. But I was like, okay, that's all right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check it. And it's called Wildin' Out.
It just came out. I said I might mess with it a little bit. That video though, a little bit. I said, they might just take all the clothes off in the videos. But just take all the clothes off.
Man, I get it. It's hot, but come on now. They ain't gotta
Like,
do
don't
it that
get
way.
naked.
They ain't gotta do it that way.
I can't
That's
do
Nelly's fault. I
nothing.
blame Nelly for that.
So you're getting all of her. He did
Yeah.
set us up for
He
it.
did set us up for a
He set
failure.
us up for it. He set us
Now,
up for it. Now I can't do Meg the Stallion though. Meg the Stallion out here showing out.
Man, too much. Hands on the knees. Hands on the knees. That's
I
the
saw
thing.
that video. I about died. I
Megan
said
up the thing.
I can't do this. I can't.
Megan's off the chain. She's
Don't
different.
get me started on Lil. Don't get
It's a
me started
different
on Lil
genre.
Nas X.
Yeah. Oh man,
We
I'm done
talking.
with him. I ain't cool with that. Lil Nas X is
I
different, man.
I watched the new video he dropped because I was just like, let me just see like where we how far we gonna take this because I feel like the whole devil thing down in here. I thought that was where the threshold was gonna stop.
Right.
No, you ever seen everybody that's seen Prison Break, right?
Right.
You remember T-Bag, and he used to pull his pocket out, and he
Nah,
had
yeah,
people holding the pocket. Why he got the people in the video holding the pocket? I can't. I
it's
just
programming. It's programming.
we programmed at its finest at this point, like,
Right.
and that's why I'm like, we're normalizing. We are normalizing. For those of us that are not, for those of you that are not spiritual, I can't. We're just normalizing the wrong thing. But to those of us that are spiritual, we really do see that, when God said that they would make what's bad as good and what's good as bad, you're really starting to see that shift
Yeah.
in society take over. Like like we have society has no bounds.
That's real. That's the
And
thing.
so you want to know why you're breeding narcissists and manipulators and people who have no boundaries with sex. And we're gonna talk about some of that in relationships too, about boundaries in relationships and these sexual escapades.
Right.
Your little threesomes. We're gonna talk about all that stuff in relationships. So just go and get your mind right. Just go and get your mind right for the series because it's gonna go down. And I'm just really excited. I'm looking forward to you being able to put us on deck with some of the stuff you got to share. So it's just gonna be a really good experience, I think, for everybody.
I think it's gonna be dope as well. Let me ask you before we get off, yo. You ever seen that show Married and Family? Where it's like it's on. They bring it's two married people. They about to get married. They engaged. They bring three
Oh
family
yeah,
members from each side.
get,
That show up.
look. Before we go, let me get my computer because I want to tell y'all what the name of the
Alright.
name of that movie is. And
Okay.
I don't want to click it on my screen because
August 15th, y'all. We start the relationship series. 7 p.m. every Sunday starting August 15th. The relationship series. Yo, it's going down, y'all. It's definitely
yeah,
going down.
it's going down. Let me pull this up because I gotta share this with y'all. This look, Si, you gotta watch this movie now because I'm gonna ask you on the 15th if you watch it. So you might want to get a little pen and the paper. Make sure you write it down. This
All right,
movie is really good.
I'm gonna put
It's
it in
really
there.
good. But it really is an eye opener, and I really do just encourage people to watch it. Like if you like enough, just about the empowerment of overcoming abuse. This one's really good, like I said, because you're really gonna see the transformation.
Wow.
You're gonna see the transformation. Um, Another good movie, if people really liked it, Temptation.
Temptations we got.
Temptation was a good one. It kind of shows you, the manipulation side on the other side. Because my man was a master manipulator, and she ended up with AIDS for that,
She ended up with AIDS with that.
and lost her husband and everything.
Nah, that's real right there. And it happens.
And then you also have the one. Which one was Taraji P?
Acrimony.
Man, that movie was good. A lot of what I liked about it is it go to show you how outside influences
Right. Can mess
letting
up.
other people have a say so and it getting in your head because it's not the success that it should be at that moment, but he was trying.
He was
He gave the girl some money. She didn't want the money. She wanted her man back. She realized I messed up,
right.
but it showed you how I could push you over the edge. So that was a really good one too.
Nah, definitely.
Um, Let me type in Tay Diggs right quick and find him. Because I know when I see it, I'm gonna know exactly what it is. I know exactly what it is. That's not it. Till death do us part.
Till death do us part. Let me put that in here.
Till death do us part. When I tell you what?
What is on? Is on Netflix? What is on?
Let me see. Let me see. Where? I think I watched mine on Amazon Prime.
On Amazon Prime. Okay.
You can watch this on Hoopla, Lifetime, BET, the Amazon channel, or you can watch it free with ads on Popcorn Flick.
Okay.
So if you got Amazon Prime, that's what I'm gonna say on Amazon.
Yeah, I
That's
got
where I
Amazon. Yeah, I got Amazon Prime. I'll definitely check that out. And then there's another one. I'm gonna play that at the end. I'm probably just gonna let that play. I know y'all about to get the food and all that, but I'm gonna probably play this at the end because it ties up. We finishing Trauma.
yes.
It's called A Hopeless Journey. It's a short film by Lisa by Lim. She was on the show 2 weeks ago. It's a
Okay.
powerful piece they made about it's like about drug abuse, substance abuse, and stuff like that being led into that life. Her
Hmm.
mother was on drugs. And it's
Okay.
from there, from her mother being on drugs, her mother wound up getting in debt with this guy, right? Because she
Uh-huh.
had got some drugs, so she didn't have the money to pay him. She winds up selling her daughter to the guy. From there, she gets introduced to the street life. From there, the guy winds up running like a pretty much like a brothel. That's the
Okay.
proper word I want to call it, a brothel. So it's like she's about, young teen. She's probably 14, 15 years old. So first day in, they break her in. This is what's going to happen. You're going to have to earn your own keep, bop, bop, bop. From there, she winds up, getting, sexually assaulted. Needless to say, she's
Hmm.
a virgin. She's a kid. So,
Hmm.
the guys are coming in and then, he's telling the clients, I got this young girl this time, da, 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 you're going to love her. Dude, that first thing he asks, she's never been with nobody, right? So he
Hmm.
said, nah, she's a virgin, da, da, da. So the dude pays top price. Goes in there, next thing you know, so now she's dealing with that. She's been assaulted. Her mother just sold her. All this abuse and trauma is going on at the same time. So it's like
And that's
another
a common thing. And that's a common thing because when you think about it, that falls right into human trafficking. You
human
know,
trafficking, right?
and that is a very sad cycle because that's she that story does not get told enough. And I know that's something that we did not talk about on this show.
Right.
It is a very, very hard thing to talk about. But you will hear stories about it, like, especially in my job of what I did, working in the prison system, you'll hear about that, mothers selling their children for their drug debts.
Right.
Like, I can't even imagine, and what about, the kids that are being sold, like not just, the mother being like, okay, well, you can have sex with my child, but selling the child is physically gone
Right.
into the care of someone else that's going to lead them a lifetime of domestic, and sexual abuse.
Literally.
And what's sad is in those situations, when they talk about trafficking, they do not lie when they say you got about 92 hours
Right.
before you'll never see them again.
Wow.
Like, and that is a real number.
Right. Right. And it's a award-winning short film.
Okay.
She's a singer and an actress, but it's a very powerful piece. Like I said, it's about 30 minutes. But
Okay.
it's like it's so much they tap into, and it's like it almost like it's a tear jerker because like you can see, like you said, it happens every day. It's such a common thing. It's like, yo, you can see how they kept it so real, where it's like, yo, I can see how that happens, and I can see, people that still walk around silently
Yes.
that may have been through something similar. But it's kind of like the movie you were talking about, where it's like, yo, from that it changes her life. A baby's involved, so now it's like it becomes a cycle, a three generation cycle from her mom to now. The girl comes in to console her, but what she does is, she's smoking crack. The girl that's trying to console her is smoking crack. So she tells her, this will take your pain away. Bop, bop, bop. She's 14 years old. Next thing you know, she hits the crack.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So now that's how she begins to cope. Like the rest of the girls in the house, like that's what they do. It becomes her norm.
Right.
From there,
I
she
don't know.
realized.
Look, you just made me think of something, and I got to bring it up. I don't know if any of you guys are avid readers out there.
Right.
And for those avid readers, I always say, for me anyway, I read an educational book and I read something for leisure. So I read this book years ago, and I have read this book probably about 3 or 4, maybe times after that. I know me and my husband read it together. It was such a good book.
Wow.
It's called Hood.
Hood.
It's called Hood, but it is about a young man who doesn't have a mother, And it's him and his 4-year-old brother. He's a young teenager. It's him and his 4-year-old brother. They're living on the streets trying to survive.
Right.
Anyway, it talks about the trauma of that to, becoming the man and, trying to get out of that life. You'll hear about the best friend, the trauma, the pedophilia from the book is
Right.
written so good. The book is so exposing a different side of that life that people don't like to talk about.
Right.
The book is phenomenal. It's written by Noor. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And there's also another really good series called Animal.
Right.
And Animal is written by, it's a 4-part series. I got that on it. I got that on my Audible.
Right.
I listen to it on Audible.
Right.
Because sometimes it's just really hard to sit. But it's called Animals, the first one. Animal 2, the Omen. And then Animal 3, the Revelations, and they're written by Quan.
Wow.
But I'm gonna tell you what, that is the reason I like this one on Audible is because the guy that's reading it, I really get to feel it from his perspective. Because when you read a book, you're seeing their story, but it's, your voice there in your mind. You know what I'm saying? You're picturing it, but for them to actually put it together for me in the Audible, I get to see it from a different perspective because I'm not tangibly reading it. Super dope. A lot of trauma, a lot of interesting. I mean, there are so many things that we can just, really watch or read that kind of deal with these issues. And a lot of times, yes, they're made to be entertainment, but if you really could just flip your mind out of one perspective and into another, you're able, I guess it's the critical thinking aspect.
Right.
If I can just put my mind and really think about this, what can I learn from that situation? I don't have to necessarily have experienced it to try to learn something from it. You get what I'm saying? And I think that's what we're trying to do a lot with the trauma series is educate people who have been traumatized, educate people on different situations of mental health, but also to give you the tools to help somebody else. And sometimes if you just watch or listen to something critically, it'll give you a different perspective that maybe you don't have about a situation. Like, I didn't look at it like that. I do see that. I have seen situations similar to this, but didn't know that it went that far, or it could go that far.
Right, definitely.
So definitely, if you guys are interested in that, check that out. Those 2 books.
Animal 1 and Animal 2, the Omen.
Who's my favorite book on the planet? I read it about once a year.
Yeah, I feel you on that. And it's Animal 1 and Animal 2, the Omen.
Yep, Animal 1, Animal 2, the Omen, and the third one is Revelations. And in the Audible series, let me see if I can find out. Because I can't pull my phone because I'm on my phone, so I don't want to do that. Let me see, not that one. It adds stuff that it adds stuff when I don't want it to add stuff. Okay, so there is a 4th book, and that's what I was thinking because I was like, I got 4. Okay, so he does the first one.
Right.
So it's Animal and Animal 2, the Revelation. Animal 2, the Omen. Animal 3, the Revelation, and the 4th one is Animal, the 4 Last Rites.
4 Last Rites.
Last Rites. And it's written by Quan, but the story is so well written. Like, he really put some thought into what he was creating.
Right.
But it's showing you the environment in which he was raised and how he grew up, and then the elements around him, how that really shaped this individual to become who he becomes. Right. And I think a lot of times we don't look at that. When we read a lot of books and a lot of black books written by a lot of black authors, especially the black women. You know, I look, I get it. You know, we want to have our own little, we romanticize
Right.
some of the things that we shouldn't romanticize.
Right.
You know, I remember reading. I don't know if anybody's ever read the Flint series. I read the Flint series by Treasure Hernandez. She's serving life in prison. She's from Flint, Michigan. She wrote the Flint series. I read every last one of the books. It's a great book, and it was cool because I could connect with it because I'm from there. So she's using real streets and real roads and real areas, and I'm like, yeah. But as I finished the series, she really romanticized a lot of things that should not have been romanticized. Right. And that's something that we have a tendency to do. We like to glorify and romanticize things that are really true issues. Right. Even when it comes, like we were talking about in one of the trauma series about the music, we are glorifying these trauma experiences. And then we want to know why we're just like, oh, you know, it doesn't, you know, you want to glorify the drug dealer. You want to glorify that lifestyle of gangs and death and destruction to your own community through, you know, through drug dealing. And you're romanticizing it. You're glorifying it. You're heightening it. I mean, think about what Scarface did to the people in the 80s. Right. Everybody wanted to be Tony Montana. Right. You know what I'm saying?
To this day.
Still want to be Tony.
Right.
You know? Kerwin kills the accent. Cruz kills the accent. I can't do it to save my life. I make him do it for me every once in a while. Right. But they glorified it. Right. Everybody in the 80s when the dope era was new was trying to do that thing. Was trying to sew it up just like that. Romanticizing the idea of something is so completely different than the actual effects in real life.
That's the thing. That's definitely.
And we romanticize it in our minds because we've been read it, we didn't studied it, we didn't been indoctrinated or programmed with that. Right. So now we want the romanticism to play out the same way that we saw it. Wow. And it don't. Right. It don't.
It don't. And that's the thing. It's like, yo, it's real. And that's the thing that's needed, the other side of it. Like, you know, they glorify, but they don't show you the after effects. And that's that's the whole bringing that awareness right there. And that's real right there. And that's the thing. I think that's why this next one, they got that award winning. They won the award for that because it gives you that gritty. It gives it to you like, you know, it's graphic. It's some stuff that's going to make you like, yo, I got to turn away. But that's somebody's life. These are real stories. Right. It's not made up. It's people that have been through that. So it's like, yo, definitely. I wanted to definitely play that to tie it all together. Because there's so many different abuses in there. I know y'all going out and hopefully y'all get to watch some of it. If not, y'all watch the playback or whatever. It's called The Hopeless Journey. Right?
I did Google it though, because I do see it on here.
Okay, so definitely it's it should say award-winning first and then The Hopeless Journey. And again, we want to thank everybody that's been tuning in. Be sure to go check out part 1 through 9. The trauma series. We're gearing up for the relationship series, which starts August 15th at 7:00. So I felt like with everything that we talked about trauma and how many different effects and different ways, I'm pretty sure when we watch this movie or when you go back on your time and you watch it, you'll see about 8 or 9 different ways trauma comes into these group of women. But it's like it takes place over about maybe 5 months. How a girl goes from innocent to full-blown savage. 5 months, but it's not by choice. It's kind of like, you know, action and reaction.
Yeah, you gotta adapt. You're gonna adapt to your environment. You're gonna survive.
And then there's a tragic end. That's like, yo, where it's like it happens every day in the black neighborhood. So it's like, yo, it touches so close to home. I felt like, yo, that would be the perfect way to end the series. It's about, again, short film. The star of the movie, well, she's actually one of the co-stars. Her name is Eli I.M. She's a rapper, singer and an actress. So again, yo, I thank you again. We looking forward to the 15th. Hope y'all can stick around and see it. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Whether y'all watch it on live or y'all watch the playback, we thank y'all. And again, this right here is called The Hopeless Journey. Let me go and cue it up right quick. The Hopeless Journey. If you want to see it, you can find it on YouTube. The Hopeless Journey. And again, we thank everybody for tuning in, and we love y'all. All right.
Get the fuck off of me!
You about to finish what you started.
I remember my last night at home. I spent the better half of it alone. It was the last night I got to watch my favorite show.
Ronnie? Is that you?
Fuck you doing here?
I come to get a fix, Ronnie.
Bitch, you out your motherfucking mind?
Come on, Ronnie, dang. I'm down to my last. I'll do anything. Just help me out this one time. I promise you won't regret it.
You better bring me something good next time, all right?
I got you.
When kids is like their parents, people love to say that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I like to believe I was the apple that rolled down the hill, far from the tree.